What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for tuning back in. My name is Nick Eden, and you are locked into another episode of Morning Cup of Merch. So I know the big question, Nick, where the hell have you been? Uh, Good question. Short answer, busy. So in the past, I've talked about the fact that I'm rebranding and retooling the podcast as well as the YouTube channel. And that's what I've been up to. I mean, if you're looking at the YouTube version, you can see it looks a little different around here. Yeah, new set, new location. Really excited about all the things that are going to be coming out of this location. To say, even got some scenery in the background. So I've been busy, but not only that, you all know that I work primarily in politics, and it's been a lot busier this year than I thought. That very interesting to say the least. But in addition to that, I've been kind of taking my print-on-demand journey in a bit of a different direction. Now that doesn't mean that I'm done with merch or Redbubble or Etsy or anything like that. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. Even though July wasn't the best month for me, it was still a pretty solid month. June was amazing, absolutely amazing. But I will say this, in terms of those platforms, it wasn't the best month for me. However, on my other platforms that I'm doing other things for, it's absolutely been killer. I mean, when I say it's been killer, I essentially have leveraged my position as a print-on-demand seller and my years of selling experience, and I'm now using that to help other businesses and other creators kind of get their merch going and get their stores up to a point and up to par. And so that's what I've really been doing, and honestly, that's what I wanted to talk to you all about today. I've been really excited about this because I think this is probably the best way to make yourself what I would call recession proof with POD. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So without violating any non-disclosures, what I can say is for a multitude of organizations, mostly in the nonprofit realm, what I've been doing is helping to set up their stores. Now, it's come in a myriad of ways. The most common, obviously, is Shopify. And so I'm really excited because I've had the opportunity to really just go in, and I've been pretty good with Shopify in the past. And I've built stores, I'd say since the first Shopify site that I built was, oh man, had to be 2017? No, 2016. It was actually 2016. That was the first Shopify site I built. I built other stores before, but this is way before the Shopify platform. And quite frankly, if Shopify would have been around when I first started building websites, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But I've been building those sites for some of those other groups and helping launch their merchandise stores, not just traditional t-shirts, but other things like books. It's a myriad of things that have been going on. And so essentially I've just turned myself in this space to kind of a go-to person for people in this realm. And that's something that I feel like each one of you all can do. So how do we do that? The first step is to assess who is around you in your local area. This is great because it also eliminates competition. And if you've heard me on ClubHouse or even on a podcast before, I've talked about Mike Wall, who kind of really blew up the whole concept of local merch, but it really does eliminate the competition. You're now not competing with all of the people on Facebook who are posting the screenshots and all these great things. You're actually just competing with people in the local market. And I would guarantee you that 8 times out of 10, most of your people in the local market who are doing t-shirts are not doing print on demand. So this puts you at a tremendous advantage because you are introducing a new concept to folks that is going to completely reshape the financial picture of their business. So one example I can think of is a group where I sat down with them and we really went through and assessed their overall scope of how much money they've actually spent on apparel over the last 5 years. And the numbers were astronomical. It's probably one of their highest costs. And it's one of their highest continuous costs because they continue to store all of the shirts that people either didn't buy, they just couldn't give away, the sizes weren't comparable, anything like that. And so what I did was I introduced the concept of print on demand. Quite frankly, for a lot of them, especially with them having membership in other cities, even though they were based in a local area, what we were able to do was assess that most of their demand is coming from local chapters of their organization. And so, okay, cool. What we decided to do was we're going to create a store for you. We're going to put everything up for your front-facing members, but also a back-end store for your chapters to where if they wanted to order something, they can order it at a lower price. Now, how I did that was I created 2 stores for them. The first store was a Shopify site, and that was all of the front-facing stuff. So the shirts, the masks, all the different initiatives they were putting forward, and essentially make that the face of their merchandise brand. On the back end of it, I actually created a spring store. And here's the reason I say that. And I know that a lot of people say, Nick, you're a Teespring guy, but Teespring's organic traffic sucks. And that, you have to stop looking at it as just I load, I sell, I load, I sell. It's much bigger than that. You have to go into this with a B2B mind. And when you're dealing with an organization that has local chapters, there's still going to be some cost, right? And so when you look at the sample orders that Teespring allows, or Spring, I keep kind of bouncing around between the two. But when you look at the sample orders, the pricing is really, really good. And that allows them at a back-end way to fulfill orders for their local chapters so that they're not taking on a lot of inventory and a lot of upfront costs. What we found when we were looking through everything was, from the organization's national standpoint, they were spending a lot of money, but they at least had money coming in. The local chapters didn't have as much money coming in. And so their resources were a little bit more limited. And this gave them the option to say, okay, I can go and I can get this shirt for this base price. And I can get however many we need for this event, this initiative, whatever the case, and then go from there. And then redirect people back to the national site for more of your front-facing things. So if all of that sounded like German pig Latin, then I would probably say a more simplified way of thinking of it. Think of your local high school band, right? Your local high school band probably has band boosters. And each year they're doing things to raise money. And the one thing that I've seen after living in several cities and being a part of a music fraternity where I have several band directors that are my fraternity brothers, the biggest thing that they have issue with is t-shirts, to the point that a lot of them just want to stay away from them. And you will be amazed when you break down the concept of print on demand, how it opens their eyes to a whole new platform of things. So go to that local band booster and say, hey, listen, what I'd like to do is I'd like to offer an option where your band parents, your band students, and anyone else that wants to support the band can purchase apparel, but it doesn't cost you anything on the upfront end. At least not from an inventory standpoint, because you do want to make sure that you get your money up front. And you have to, you really in that sense have to figure out exactly how much you want to charge, or what's the lowest that you'll take, and negotiate up from there. But you do want to make sure that you make some money on it. But explain the process to them. That's it. Just explain the process to them and let them know, listen, we'll do the designs, you approve the designs, we'll put them, and I think in this instance, probably spring or spreadshirt would be probably the best option, but you have to base it on your level of comfortability. I just happen to love spring, especially when it comes to dealing with content creators or any type of local groups, because it's straightforward to the point. You can create multiple stores, multiple storefronts within one account. Your reports are easy to generate, and you get a much bigger profit margin than you would somewhere like Merch by Amazon. I would even say you can consider throwing in the price of a domain so that they know that they can point people directly to it. And then from there, all they have to do now is promote it and use that money coming in. All of the band parents are getting their apparel. Anybody who's supporting the band is getting theirs. It works. It's a win-win situation, and everyone gets their money and or their product, and it does not terribly impact that band's ability to make money without bringing in a bunch of different types of inventory. So overall, I want everybody to just kind of fix your mindset to thinking about that. Now, this is going to take you completely out of most of you all's realm. And I get that. I have a lot of business-to-business experience. I know that it's a possibility that it won't be as easy for some of you to go out and source new clients. But on those months, like July for me, I made more money setting up Shopify sites for other organizations than I did selling my own designs. The beautiful thing about it is, more often than not, that work takes a day. And I would say go to YouTube, look up some tutorials on, building Shopify sites. Listen, if you can make a design then you can absolutely build a Shopify site. They have an absolutely wonderful interface that makes it possible for you to go in and design a professional site. I'm not an affiliate, this is not sponsored, but if it's not Shopify and it's WooCommerce or it's Wix or it's Squarespace, whatever the case may be, but just go out and get some business. I'm telling you, it can sustain you, especially as you're gearing up for Q4. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you about in terms of leveraging your print-on-demand business for B2B success. I mean, it's a no-brainer because there are still so many people that do not know about print-on-demand, and they think that t-shirts are all heat press and screen printing, and that's not the case. You can introduce potential clients to a brand new platform for them to make money without spending a lot up front, and in addition to that, you can also position yourself in that area to be the market leader. There's no other way to say it. And be the go-to person when it's like, okay, I don't have a lot going on, I don't have a lot of money, but I still want to do this apparel. I'm telling you, it makes a difference, a world of difference. This could be an entirely separate part of your POD business that's bringing in tons more money than actually your primary. So it's something to think about. I've talked about it before, but I did want to reiterate it, especially as we're going into Q4, and especially when a lot of these businesses have had to deal with things like hiring shortages. They've also had to deal with lower traffic. There may possibly be a shutdown again. We don't know. But you want to make sure that you position yourself to be the person that they go to when they're like, hey, we have to pivot to something that's a little bit more remote based and doesn't give us as much output as we've been doing. If you're that person, you can really secure your financial future with this business model. So we got a couple more things before we wrap up, and one of those is one of my favorite segments of this show, and that is merch in the mail. Yeah. Okay, I wasn't even going to really do a merch in the mail because I had not put it out there for people to submit questions. But if you go to my Instagram, you can see I've been putting up a lot of content there over the last couple of months, and I've had questions flooding my inbox. And so I figure, hey, what the hell? We might as well answer at least one of them here. And then going into next week, we'll start doing some more. So our first question comes from Slater. Like Slater from Saved by the Bell? Like that was my favorite character? Okay. Slater, hey Nick, I'm loving the content on IGTV. Shout out to everybody on Instagram. I have a question. I have recently opened an account with Spreadshirt. I've loaded a few designs. However, I've also learned about Merch by Amazon, Redbubble, and other PODs. Am I jumping the gun by going into too many at one time, or do I just need to stick with Spreadshirt for now and build on that? Okay, Slater. So I'll say this. There is something to being the master of one trade instead of being the jack of all trades. If you're just starting out in your print-on-demand journey, what I would say is it's probably a good idea that you learn one system, kind of get it going on there, and then start breaking into other things. Now, if you would have asked me this 3 years ago, I would have said sign up for everything and throw all your designs up there. A little bit older, a little bit more mature, been selling a little longer now. And so I understand from the standpoint of let me really get in and know this platform. So for instance, for me, the bulk of my print-on-demand money outside of my B2B ventures comes from Merch by Amazon. That's my number one. Has been since 2017. I don't foresee that being, with the exception of one venture I'm working on, I don't foresee that changing. Now, that being said, I do also sell on Etsy. I sell on Redbubble. I sell on Spring. I sell in a multitude of different marketplaces. But Merch by Amazon is the one that I've learned and cultivated the most. Even though I started on Spring and Redbubble before Merch, that's what I put the most of my energy in. Generally, wherever you put the majority of your energy in, that's going to be the place that's going to give you the most. Now, with that being said, is it easier to say that if you're going to concentrate on one platform, let that be Merch? Sure. But I can't imagine as a new seller, the intimidation of coming in, you do get a little bit more leeway than a lot of us did when we started with having just 10 spots and not 10 designs on multiple products. But if I were to say in your position, I would probably say, look, I'm in Spreadshirt. Spreadshirt is amazing. I would actually ask you to go back and listen to my show where I talked about how I accidentally made $75 on Spreadshirt without even knowing it. That lets me know how amazing they were, because some of those designs were. But there are people who make a check with a comma in it every month on Spreadshirt. There are people who make, the same thing on Redbubble. There are some people that sell and they have full-time incomes with print on demand, and they never even touch Merch by Amazon. So don't worry so much about the platform as much as how well do you know the platform, how well can you cultivate the platform, how can you learn the algorithm, and how can you maximize your success on that platform. I've been fortunate to meet a lot of sellers in different spaces. I met a guy 3-4 months ago online, because social distancing. I met a guy about 3-4 months ago that makes 5 figures a year selling on Society 6. Now, I've heard of Society 6. I've never sold on Society 6. I know people who do, but I never knew anybody that made that kind of money on Society 6. But that is his full-time income. So if it can be done there, it can also be done. I tell people all the time, I've only met 2 7-figure sellers through Merch by Amazon. I've met several through Teespring, and they're still selling strong there today. It's called Spring now, not Teespring, it's Spring. I'm gonna get myself out of that. Y'all know what I mean. But so it's really less about the platform itself. Now there are factors to it, right? Obviously one platform may have more traffic than the next, but that also depends on how you market your listings. Are you just throwing your designs up there and waiting on somebody to come and sell? Or are you putting together a sound strategy? And I think that's one of the things that escapes us in the print on demand community. This is still a business. So you still have to write a business plan. You should be formulating a business plan for Spreadshirt. You should be formulating a business plan for Redbubble, for Merch by Amazon. This does not exempt you from doing the things that businesses do in order to financially succeed just because it's a marketplace that has organic traffic. Yes, there is a lower barrier of entry into print on demand than there is most other businesses. With that being said, that also means there's a lot of competition there. So if you go in, formulate a plan, formulate a strategy, work that plan, learn that platform, Spreadshirt could do more for you than Merch or Redbubble could ever do for you. Because I know people that are on Merch right now, they're not selling shit. That's just honest truth. They're not selling shit. So for you, take this opportunity, learn Spreadshirt. I will say, if you're looking for more seasoned advice on that, Spreadshirt is absolutely a platform where you can make a lot of money, a lot of it. So I would say stick to your guns, double down on what you're doing, make sure that you know Spreadshirt better than anybody else, and make your way into print on demand success with that platform. And once you see that platform rise, and once you see those things kind of go ahead, then you can turn around and say, you know what, now let me see if I can duplicate that on Redbubble. And now let me see if I can duplicate that on Merch by Amazon. I will say this much, for all of them, my theme of the year is read the terms of service. Please. So Slater, I hope that helps. I'm wondering if that's your real name. If it is, that's like the coolest real name on earth. But thanks for writing in. Thanks for checking out the content. And guys, if you want to see the type of content that Slater is talking about, you can head over to Nick Eden on Instagram. As a matter of fact, Nick Eden on Instagram, Nick Eden on TikTok, Nick Eden Print on Demand on Facebook, and you can see all the content there. I'm dropping a lot of content that I don't drop in podcast form or on my YouTube channel. Some of this stuff is exclusive to those platforms, and that's how it's going to be moving forward. So that's going to wrap it up for me today, guys. It's been amazing being back. I'm looking forward to it. I've got some guests that are going to be coming up. Hopefully starting next week, we have our first guest. I'm trying to get it recorded. Like, I would tell you to send them a message, but it's kind of a secret guest. But I do want to make sure that at least, especially going into Q4, that I give you guys the best and most effective and efficient content possible. And with that, remember this: you can make as much money as you want to with print on demand, but you have to press the go button. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.